Blackouts continue. Power companies remain silent. Yeah, it's still going on, isn't it? We should take care of that at some point.
We are close to our goal, gentlemen. The device you see before you allows an average citizen's body energy to power a city block. In my hands, that power would be limitless. We need Dr. Watts to finish the device. Only she knows where to find the missing piece.
Yeah, plans and speeches are all well and good, but I think you're forgetting about one thing. Spider-Man.
I've already prepared for that eventuality. Let me introduce our insurance policy. Enthusiasms, enthusiasms. What are mine? What is it which gives me joy? Destroying Spider-Man. A man stands alone, facing the web slinger. This is the time for what? For individual achievement. But in a mob? Part of a team. Tomorrow night, the good doctor will be attending the Science and Industry Ball. I'm gonna get the doctor myself. But I get nowhere unless the team takes out Spider-Man. Spider-Man!
Hammerhead and his thugs have stormed the ball. The people are frightened, and some have even been taken hostage. It looks like Spidey's gonna have his hands full, finding the doctor and keeping everyone safe. Good luck, Webhead!
Here we go.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. In the last part, we've chased that one dude down on a train and found out not only did we have to fight against the Sandman, but Beetle was there for some reason. And now we're in this stage, which is annoying.
There's someone trapped in that elevator. I'd better find the controls. No, please, no.
And now we're in this stage, Gangland, which is one of the more annoying stages in the game because even though it doesn't start off with it, you might remember from the first Spider-Man PS1 game, that I think it was like the second or third stage, the bank heist had a hostage
That elevator looks unstable. Better secure it somehow.
Well, in a few moments, that hostage gimmick is going to be returning, but for right now, we have to save this one dude in an elevator by webbing the wire, which is surprisingly picky about where it wants you to select it. At which point, we can just swing over, press that switch, and release the dude. However, upon releasing the person in the elevator, if you're playing on hard mode, you're going to want to head back to the first room in the level, because the comic book has spawned for you there, which is Spectacular Spider-Man number 220. For us, though, since we're playing on normal mode, we're just gonna climb up this wall and continue onwards. I do recommend webbing up here immediately, though, so you can avoid these next enemies.
So keep your eyes
You're
peeled.
still gonna want to take them out, but I'm gonna take them out using
Very
webbing, which
secure.
is the stealthy method that doesn't get me shot at.
Oh, great. More guys with guns.
You're also going to notice a jump cut coming up here. This is the one stage in the game I think I got interrupted while recording, so I had to pause the game and came back about 5 minutes later. With that, time for the hostages.
Uh-oh. Looks like these guys have hostages. Better be careful.
You want to be fast and stealthy here. If you get spotted, or if you're too slow, a hostage will get shot and you have to start the stage over again. This first wave can be taken out pretty easily because if you just stay on the ceiling, you can web them all down and then you don't have to worry about them getting shot.
Hostages.
But later on, this can get a bit more annoying. Also, I lifted that photocopier up a moment ago. For doing that on any difficulty, you can find the other comic book for this stage, Amazing Spider-Man number 21. That dude that I just webbed there is probably the hardest hostage to save, because if you're anywhere on the floor, I think you get shot. At this portion of the stage, you just need to go to L1 targeting and web yank vents. You're gonna need to do that a bit here. It's very much just like the bank heist stage from the first game, except now you're fighting mafiosos instead of, well, robbers.
Hey, you.
Once we drop down here, we have to save more hostages. However, at this point in the stage, there are 6. However, they're not all in the same kind of place. There are, I think, 2 in this room here, which looks lifted right out of the bank stage from the first game. But in the next hallway, there are 2 doors that we're gonna get ambushed from. If you web yank the doors afterwards, you can find the next hostages in there.
No, man.
I believe when a hostage escapes, even if there's more enemies in the room, you don't have to worry about them getting shot. I think they're safe at that point. It's only when there's outright an enemy next to a person that you have to worry about that enemy. You can end up using a lot of webbing here. In fact, I think compared to the first game, from memory at least, I think this game does a better job of having you use your webbing, and if it's worth using your webbing, deciding if it's worth using your webbing or not. Because the first game, you could either go all in on webbing or never use it at all, barring boss fights, and you'd more or less be fine. In this game, you need to be a bit more decisive with it. Again, from memory. I talk about Spider-Man 1 a lot in this LP, but I haven't played it since the LP, which is the case with a lot of games I usually do. So some things are a bit sparse in my memory. In these 2 rooms, you have to web impact web, not web yank, but like I think I said earlier, and then enter in, because that is where the last hostages in any of these stages, and in this stage, are. You have to run right next to the hostages for them to be counted as safe, though. You can't just impact web the door and be like, okay, see y'all later. It does feel a bit clunky to randomly bring back this gimmick now, but at the same time, it's a good chance to reuse it.
Well, that's the last of them. Time to find Hammerhead.
Better start making sense, lady. Zeus's what?
Just 6 of you against 1 woman? That seems a bit unfair. Unless that happens to be Electra, in which case you're toast.
Come on!
Yeah, come on. What am I paying you fools for? Don't just stand there! After her! Don't know where you think you're going.
I was just gonna see if they had any more of those Empire State Building snow globes. Hey, do you want one?
You're toast, do-gooder.
Jump over Hammerhead at the start because he's doing a head charge at you. Now, the comic book for this stage, if you're playing on hard mode, is very early on. See that closed sign to my left? You want to pick it up 3 times, in which case it'll spawn, I think, where it is. And that is Amazing Spider-Man number 114. Now, Hammerhead's potentially one of the more annoying bosses in the game because he takes a lot less damage unless you do one specific thing. You have to web him normally, in which case he'll raise up his gun. You then need to web yank the gun out of his hands, in which case he'll run towards it or do a head charge to grab it.
Play nice, Hammy. I can see my house from here.
When he's not holding his gun, his defense is lowered considerably, and that's when you should do most of your damage. And about halfway through his health bar, he's going to jump out the window, in which case the helicopter out there is going to also start shooting at you. However, you can just jump back inside and he'll follow you, no problem. So at this point, there's no real point to going out there aside from some, I think there's a couple more health carts and web carts out there. But otherwise, you don't have to worry too much if you've done this. Just do the exact same thing you've been doing and you should win the fight, no problem. Although he likes to stick a bit closer to walls during this phase, so webbing him and getting his gun away from him can be a bit harder. I think this fight also has a change in the what if mode. I think if he charges into a wall, he'll start cussing. But nothing like uber major. I think this game was rated E at the time, so not too much to worry about. In fact, I need to check that. It's essentially a kid game. Cussing, I guess, is the best way to do it. Best way to look at it, rather. This ESRB. Yeah, this was E. So yeah, it's mostly stuff like probably, "You stupid, you idiot."
Easy there, fella.
If he starts getting low enough on health, you could probably just wail on him while he's still holding his gun, like right now. But you need to be careful because if you try to punch him while he's guarding, he can very easily just whack you. Doesn't help when the game's being really uncooperative with the aim like that.
There. I hope that holds him, because there's still a damsel in distress that needs rescuing. What the? Maybe that woman was Electra. What's this? First Hammerhead and now Sandman's back. And what do they want with the doctor? I know she works at biotech. I've seen her there with Connors before. Maybe he knows what this is all about. Come on, Doc. Boy, it sounds like Connors is in some real trouble. I really need to limit myself to one rescue a day.
Science and industry ball ruined. Spider-Man on the rampage. Thanks, Jay.
Central Tower, code red.
Here it is, Spidey fans. The quintessential high-tech research lab. The pinnacle of modern technology. The apex of human thought and achievement. But behind the shiny exterior is a company working on diabolical experiments and techno-organic wonders of the future. Black market research done by unassuming pawns, guarded by state-of-the-art robotic sentries. Little human life toils in these halls.
Uh-oh, those robots damaged the boiler. I need to shut it down before it ruptures.
Alright, starting off with this stage, we have these boiler issues going around. There's going to be 3 sentries attacking 3 boilers. You need to take out the sentry and press the button within a short time span. Otherwise, game over, plain and simple. If you try to progress onwards, you're just going to die. This feels a bit disconnected from the rest of the stage aesthetically a little bit, because the rest of the stage is a bit more sci-fi looking, but otherwise, don't have to worry too much about it. Now, something that's interesting about this game, there's not too much in the way of cut content. Instead, it's mostly changes. For instance, in the Japanese version, the little spider-shaped fade-out and fade-in from cutscenes and levels was changed to be more of an organic spider, and many level names were changed close to release, I believe, to avoid accidental references to 9/11, because this game was released in 2001, which, yeah...
These things are huge. They must control the cooling system for the whole complex. I bet I can get into the rest of the complex through the air vent. But if I don't turn off those turbines, I'll be spider puree. That should be the control room. I'll need to shut down those lasers to get there.
For instance, a case of that can be seen back in the stage where we had to save the plane, Wind Tunnel. In the original version, that stage was called Crash Flight. There's other ones, but I'll mention those as we reach those stages. Now, in this portion, there's turbines there. I've never stepped in those, so I don't know what happens. I'm assuming it's instant death, but it could also just be quick damage. I've just never had the morbid curiosity to check. And there's lasers guarding the way there, so we need to get those out of the way. I'm also checking out because I recall there being a new webbing type here for us. There it is. This is electric webbing. This will, if you use this on any robotic enemies like the sentries, they'll just go down in one shot. There, what you have to do is just press the buttons when they're all close to the center. However, if you're playing on What If mode, that minigame is changed to a game of ping pong, which is weird. I think you just need to score a certain amount of points to win that. Also, I completely forgot to mention, the first comic book in this stage is only accessible on easy mode. In the room back with the 3 boilers, after you defeat all 3 sentries and shut down the boilers, there's a little ramp and walkway in that room. The comic book spawns on that, and that is Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30. The other one is actually very close by, theoretically. You see that health cartridge over there? Keep in mind where that is when I talk about the second comic book.
There must be some information here about where Dr. Connors is. Let me see. Bingo! He's in the Special Projects Lab, Central Tower. Looks like I need to head in that direction. The switch must be in the security room.
And now we need to head to the security room, which is a surprisingly lethal journey. Along the way, you're going to notice that there are a bunch of Mission Impossible lasers. we need to crawl around these. Thankfully, they're not in straight planes. They have a bit of dimension to them, so you can easily crawl between them like that. I'm not sure what happens if you touch these. I'd assume it's just damage, but I don't know. I've honestly never gotten touched by them. It's surprisingly easy to sneak around them like that. Do think they'd be a bit stricter with stuff like that, given that this is a high-tech security lab, but oh well. And there's 2 switches there. One of those opens the door we need to access. The other one turns off the lasers so you can just walk through. However, at this point, I should note, the second comic book in this stage will have spawned by this point if you're playing on Kid Mode. Just head back to that health cartridge I pointed out earlier in the air vents, and it will be there for you. That is Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21. And now we can just end this stage.
This place is gigantic. From the looks of all this electricity around me, this must be the main power conduit for all of biotech.
Web zip line up immediately and then turn around, because that's where
Took care of one of them. There must be a switch for each door.
This level's structured a bit weird in that there's a central ring with 3 to 4 different pathways you need to go along in order to press switches that stop laser gates from being active, which allows you to access an elevator at the end. However, I should note, if you crawl under the starting bridge and L-target, you can notice there's an alcove down there. There's nothing down there for me right now. However, if you're playing on hard mode, a comic book is there for you. That is Spider-Man number 25. You can web basically every switch in this stage, but I recommend just going up to press it with your the square button, because otherwise you're just wasting webbing, which you're going to need a lot for with impact webbing for this room, for a lot of the rooms in here rather. For instance, here we got sentry spawners. Each one of these has 3 switches on it you need to hit with impact webbing to destroy them and cause any further sentries from spawning. You need to do this in order to access the switch in this room, which will turn off the next laser gates. You also need to take out the sentries themselves, but I recommend grabbing this taser webbing to just standard web them and take them out that much more quickly. At which point you can just head to the other side and press the switch. The reason you need to take out the spawners first is there is a laser gate in front of that switch, I believe. I know there are for later ones, but I forget if there is for this one, honestly. The next room is where one of the more annoying things in the game starts to appear, but thankfully there's an easy way around them this time. Remember the machine guns from earlier in the game? Well, this is their upgraded cousins, laser cannons. They don't need someone to be using them, and they aim directly at you with a constant laser that is very hard to dodge. They don't have infinite range, though. For instance, there's cases like this where you can just stand a good distance away and L2 target or L1 target impact webbing them. In fact, that's how I recommend going through this room. Just kind of stay at a distance and impact web them. Taser webbing, again, is good here because, as I mentioned with the Freon webbing, any specialty webbings like these two count as a second web cartridge that doesn't get used up from the count if you use up all of that type of webbing. This is also probably the most complicated room in this entire area because once we take care of the laser cannons, that's going to cause a shield on top of this weird little pillar in the room to stop getting transmitted, in which case you need to jump up there, press another switch, we'll disable the laser barrier on the main switch, and then we can just continue off the level as normal. Admittedly, this is probably one of my favorite levels in the game just because I feel like it has a good structure to it. While yes, it's very repetitive, each of the different pathways you have to go down has a different gimmick to it and therefore feels a bit more different. It's one of the few levels in the game I outright remember, I guess is a good way to put it. It's one of the more memorable ones because the early game with this game in particular isn't too memorable, barring a few stages that are memorable more for annoying reasons. It's not like the first game where I can recall a lot of the stages because I was having fun during them or if there was something interesting going on in them. In this room, there's a bunch of laser cannons surrounding the main switches we need to press. However, not only do we need to take down the laser barrier by pressing square here, you need to mash the triangle button to raise the temperature in the room. At that point, you need to take out the laser cannons, because laser cannons are usually moving around, but if the temperature is too high, not only are they frozen, but they'll also not target you outright until it gets below a certain temperature. During this time, just go all out and such. However, I'm going to be speeding this section up because I need to do this 4 times in a row in order to take out all 4 laser cannons. It's tedious, but it's safe. I'm not sure what the exact temperature that you need to be safe is. It's probably at least the halfway mark, I'd assume, is when they start targeting you. But yeah, ultimately nothing too annoying. You mostly take care of them to make the main gimmick of this room less annoying. In the central pillar, there are 3 switches you need to press. However, there's an electric barrier pulsating around them. If you try to web the switches while the electric barrier is up, you get shocked and lose some health. So you just need to time yourself correctly, and you should be fine. That hurts. There's also a weird thing I've noticed where if I get zapped in this room, I can't automatically target anymore. I might just need to press the L2 button again is what could be causing it. So I find myself having to L1 target these things afterwards. Once you take care of that switch, though, you can press the main switch, and then the final laser door for the stage is open. We can now access the end of the stage. However, since we are playing on normal mode and have completed that area, another comic book is available to us back at the bridge where we started the stage. So we just need to go over there and grab that first. I believe that is Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 21's alternative cover. There it is. Also, the laser gate that's next to the exit never disappears, so you just need to kind of go around the circle again. It's not too annoying, but it's just one of those, why do it at this point, because you're at the end of the stage anyway. But with that, and me finishing this stage, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're going to be heading to one of the more annoying stages in the game. See you guys then.